Well, today we're going to butcher some hogs and make some sausage and lard and all the other byproducts of hogs. So just watch here if they work on this. First they're going to scald the hogs. This is to get them good and hot so they can scrape the hair and all the other things off their hide. Now they're scraping the hide to get the hair off. They put them in boiling water to cauterize them, to make the hair come off. There, they're cleaning them up. Now they're going to slit them and get the entrails out. These are used for chitlins. You know, they take and boil this stuff, and this is what you buy in a package in a store. Hog chitlins. This is what you use for treats. Put a little salt with them, a little bacon rind, and pretty good. Now he's rendering lard here. He's cooking lard. See, he's got 3 pots going. They cut up the pork and put it in there and render the fat out of it, and that's lard. There he's dipping lard into a lard press. Now he's going to compress that and squeeze that, and that goes into a bucket, and that's fresh lard for cooking. We're still rendering over there. A lot of lard on these hogs. It was fat. Now we're going to make some sausage. He's putting the casings on the end of the sausage stuffer, and we'll load them on there. And now the man turns the crank, and it's filled full of sausage, and then the casings get filled full of sausage. Well, we're still rendering lard there. Got to cook it a long time. Now they put the casings on there. Probably puts 25-30 foot of casing. Now then they're stuffing the casing with sausage. And that goes into a tub down there, and then it's cooked, and then it's ready to eat. This is a John Deere manure spreader. John Deere made a lot of fine quality equipment in those days. They still do. And they stand behind everything. But this is one thing that they would not stand behind. Well, I wouldn't stand behind a manure spreader either. Might be kind of messy. This is in the fall of the year. They're putting manure on the fields after it's been plowed, and then come next spring they'll plow it up again. They don't do that anymore today. This manure spreader full probably weighs several tons. That's still the best fertilizer, I think, but then, well, they got all this commercial stuff today. Now then, this is next spring there. They're planting corn with horses. Got a check wire. You can't see it. There's a check wire going along there. Every 18 inches it trips. It drops 3 kernels of corn in the ground to each hill. There he is changing the check wire so he can plant another row. And he attaches the wire to the machine for the check wire. This, I believe, is an old 1924-25 Fordson tractor, but I can't tell for sure. He's running a harrow there today to break up the clods. Hopefully this is on another field. I hope this isn't on the field that he just planted corn. There's an Oliver row crop 70 pulling a corn planter. That's probably the same one you saw before with the wire check on it. This is of the 1930 vintage, but this movie film was made after 1938 because it's in color. Color didn't come out till 1938. Here we are cutting the weeds down between the corn. Oliver row crop 70. That's an antique today. He's going back to Eureka. Probably somebody that did some work on a tractor or something. Here's that old Fordson again doing the work. Now we're going to cut wheat. They don't do that today like that, do they? No, they don't. This was a time-consuming job. I'm not sure if that's a Ford or if that's an old International. I can't really be sure. I said it was a Ford, but I'm not really sure. Wonder what's in that jug. Water, I hope. There's Chris Vercler, the owner of the farm. They're all going in for lunch now. After a hard morning's work, they've probably been up since sunset. Now we're going to thrash a little wheat here. This is off of an Avery separator, and the Avery was made in Peoria, Illinois. Avery separator to separate wheat, thrash wheat. The bundles are thrown in there, and then they go into the teeth, which separate the wheat from the shafts. The wheat comes out one way, and the shafts come out the other. There you go, Avery separator, Peoria, Illinois. When's the last time you seen a wagon pulled by a team of horses? Probably been a year or two. Now this is wheat. Boy, there's a load of hay, a load of straw for you. Now they're probably going in for supper. They'll probably work till sundown. Most of this black and white stuff was shot in the 30s. The color was in the 40s. Really chopping up that weed, ain't it? Now every time this trips, that's a half a bushel, and it records on the recorder. So they know at the end of the day how many bushels of wheat that they have processed. This is a Massey Harris clipper. They were pretty popular back in the 40s. There's that row crop 70. These are collector's items today. We're going to run that binder here you saw just a few minutes ago in black and white. Now it's in color. Harvesting wheat. That's an antique binder by today's standards. Pretty slow, too. Today they got binders that'll do many rows. That Caterpillar combine can go up to 60 rows wide. I've sat in one of those. Boy, those things are huge compared to these. That's wheat going to in this stage of the game, it's probably going for the war effort, to the soldiers overseas or to the American people. This is during the time frame of the Second World War. These are soldiers without uniforms. They helped the country with the food and with other products from the farm. That's a beautiful team there, match team. They got that. That's full. This was done with a camp dump grain elevator. The horses turned the tumble bar, and that raised the front of the wagon, so let the wheat go out into the combine or into the elevator, which went up into the silo. Then they took that wagon again, put it back on the tractor, and filled it up again. I don't know how many thousand bushels they got off this field, but it's quite a few. That water jug he's holding is an antique. Here comes another load of wheat. Or oats. I'm not sure if it's wheat or oats. There we are. We're getting ready to make hay now. Now we've got a machine here to roll them into rows. And pretty soon we're going to see the hay binder come along and make bales of hay. I think on his farm he had 6 or 8 horses, plus the tractors. And he used the horses continuously. Now we're going to make bale some hay today. This is a tie wire binder, where when they made the bales, they pushed the wire through and back around the other side, and they twisted them together to make the bales, to bind the bales together. They were twisted by pliers or sometimes by hand. Goes along, picks up that row there, those team of horses and that rower, that hay rower, put into rows here just in the last scene. This isn't hay, I'm sorry, straw. Straw, this is straw for bedding for the animals. That old guy up there on that wagon, he's probably in his late 70s, early 80s at this time frame. Now look at this rig going across the field. Ain't this something? I remember as a boy I used to see this. This was really something, just like a big caravan going across the field. Something you don't see anymore. They roll them all in rolls, in big rolls now. There's a team of horses taking the straw, 2 teams taking the straw back to the barn. They got pretty good loads. Now we're going to load the straw and go into the barn there. Chances are on the other side, they probably got a team of horses that's pulling these bales up into the end of the barn here. And they get up there in the loft, and then they pull a trip rope and they go down, and they're stacked up, and then they do it over and over again. There's a lot of physical manual labor in this process. Here's a bus coming from Eureka. They're coming from Chicago to Peoria, going down Route 24 just east of Washington. There's the front of the farm, which still stands today. Now he's going down the road there. He's going back to the field. Now we're getting a little more modern here. There's a little more modern combine. That looks like about maybe 8 or 10 row. I'm not sure. It was modern in its time. Today it's an antique. Kind of looks like a John Deere, but I'm not sure. I don't know what that was all about. Now we're back to making hay again. Making straw, I mean baling straw. I keep saying making hay. It's baling straw. Hay is green, straw is yellow. That's kind of an automatic one. You don't have to. That's tied with rope, with binder twine. Big rolls of binder twine. Now we're putting them on the elevator to put them up in the barn. I hope that elevator wasn't running when he come down it. Now we're picking corn by hand. This is back in the 30s, picking corn by hand in a horse-drawn wagon. They grab an ear, grab 4 or 5 ears, and throw them in a wagon. That backboard, they try to hit that backboard, and then it falls in the wagon. Now we're going back to the barn. There's a load of corn going to the mill. Now this is in the 40s. They're still picking by hand. You can see how they do this. It took them several days to pick a field this way. It was hot and dry. Probably got pretty thirsty out there too, I would imagine. I think each one of those wagons up to the top of the board there would hold, up to the top of the wagon box would hold about 60 bushel. Up to the top probably be about another 10 or 15 bushel. Now we're getting a little more modern here with a modern corn picker. Looks like a 2-row picker here. This saves all the time in the field picking by hand. It's a lot faster too. This is a horse-drawn stalk cutter. After the corn is picked, the stalk cutter goes alongside, cuts the stalks, and lays them in rows. This is something that's a very rare shot. You probably haven't seen for 50 years or more. Maybe 60. It'll show it here in a minute. There's 3 horses. Goes along, it's got a sickle bar underneath. It cuts them, lays them down beside. When it gets full, it falls off in a row. See how it lays them out there? And then the guys come along and they stack them up into rows. Now there's going to be a wagon come along, and they'll stack these on the wagon, and these will go back to the farm, go into a silage cutter, which cuts it up for silage, and it goes into the silo, and there it's kept for food for the animals for the winter. Kind of a green feed. It's got a lot of minerals with it. There it goes back to the barn. Now you're going to see them feeding these silage cutter here in a minute or two. There's silage from the cut up stalks you just saw loaded on the wagon. It's going in there to fill the silo. And sometimes that got to smelling pretty rank when it started rotting. There's the silage cutter. It's getting fed into the silage cutter, and it's blown up to the top with a blower, fed into the silo. It didn't waste anything. These were usually fed to milk cattle to help produce milk, but beef cattle used them too. Sometimes even horses or other animals used them. There's the silage cutter. It cuts it and blows it right up. Now we're going to harvest pumpkins. He's got a long pole with a pick on the end of it, and throws them into the wagon. This is wintertime on the farm, I believe. This kind of overlaps here a little bit, but not much. Now we're going to see harvesting pumpkins with horses. And you watch and see how many pumpkins these horses step on when they harvest these. Most of these pumpkins at this time went to the canning factory in Eureka, which at that time was the pumpkin capital of the world. They harvested more pumpkins there than anywhere in the world. Now it's down to Libby's, down to Morton. A lot of pumpkin pie here. Now watch these horses, how they work. They got a V on the bottom that they're pulling, and it puts these pumpkins into rows. Watch those horses' feet. See how many pumpkins they step on. Don't step on a one, do they? Isn't that something? Now they're all in rows. You watch this now. You got to take them by hand. You got to pick them up and put them into that wagon. Then when you get this back to the farm, you got to unload them out of the wagon into a truck. There's a rotten pumpkin that won't make it this year. They usually left that in the field to rot for fertilizer. Notice that pole he's got. That's a pumpkin pole. Boy, those horses are pulling a good load there because those pumpkins are heavy. There's probably maybe close to a ton or more there. Now they got to take them all and put them into that truck. When that truck gets full, you'll see it here in a minute. It's really loaded down. I'm thinking that's probably a 33, 34 Ford, maybe a Chevy. I'm not sure. Look at that load. Isn't that a good load of pumpkins? They're going over to Dickerson Canning Factory in Eureka, Illinois. Here's the Dickerson Canning Factory in Eureka. Goes in, first he gets weighed. Then they go in there where the chute is here, and they raise the truck so the pumpkins go down into a big belt which takes them into the factory. Here they're pulling this down to load the pumpkins on. And the pumpkins will work their way into the factory. In a minute here you're going to see a device that takes the seeds out of the pumpkins. Here they go into the mill. Have you often wondered what they do with pumpkin seeds? Well, I'll tell you what they do. They process them, they clean them, they cook them, and they put them in plastic bags, and they sell them at the stores there for little treats. Put salt with them or other seasoning, and they're pretty good. A lot of protein in them. Just like soybeans. Soybeans are good eating too. Here's these pumpkin seeds. How many millions and millions of pumpkin seeds are there? A lot of seeds. That don't include what's laying on the bottom. Well, he's done now, and they bring the truck back down, unhitch the front of the scoop, or front of the hook there. He's going to go back and get weighed again and find out how many pounds of pumpkins he had. They were paid so much a pound. Now we do it with a tractor, the same thing. We know those tractors aren't going to step on any pumpkins. Today they have machines that just don't do it quite like that. They just go in there and they just pick up the pumpkins at random. They don't even roll them anymore. They just go in there and just take them all up. They got arms which go on either side and just rake the pumpkins right into a regular belt that goes up into a hopper. Here's another scene of picking corn. With the machinery and the way this looks, this could be in the early 40s. There's that tractor, which I think was an International. Like I said before, I thought it was a Model T, but it's an International. There's a 2-row corn picker. It picks them, takes the hull off of them, and just lays them right in the wagon. This is getting late in the year when the rains come. A lot of mud here. Look at that bud. Something else, huh? Chickens flying around and everything. Now we're going back up to the dump here, to the elevator. That's brought down. The wagon's hoisted up in the air. The corn is put into the elevator, and it's taken up to the silo, up to storage. I read someplace one time that there's a specific number of kernels on an ear of corn. Now they're running the camp dump grain elevator. There it is right there. It runs in a shaft, and that runs a hydraulic pump which raises and lowers the wagon up and down. Now it's coming down because he's done. There's old Chris. I hope he don't walk across the living room floor or the kitchen floor with those boots on. I hope he takes them off, because his wife's going to talk to him. She'll probably get the broom or skillet after him. Hi, Chris. Isn't this a beautiful sight? I just love this. I always love it when they're harvesting corn, because that way I don't know, it's just strictly Illinois. Now he brings the horses around, hitches them up to that wagon full of corn, and old Chris is going to take her back to the barn to put her in the elevator again. Boy, they got a lot of corn this year. In those days, the farmers didn't sell their corn. They kept it and used it for feed. That's a John Deere picker he's running there. Made in Moline, Illinois. Now Chris is going to show you how they unload the wagons here. That bucket he pulled there was for a little extra corn, probably for the chickens or something like that. There it's going up the elevator up to a silo. That corn is dropping off. They won't waste. They'll keep it on. Now this is a corn sheller made by Amer Cook Machine Company in Washington, Illinois. They made hundreds of them. They sent them all over the world. Orville Redenbacher of Redenbacher's Popping Corn bought I don't know how many dozens of them. And they were shipped to him. They were a special process to shell the corn. Cook Machine is out of business now. There's a wagon load of cobs. I don't know what they did with them. Now it's the fall and we're getting ready to plow the field up again. We're plowing up the field, get ready to put manure on it, and the cycle has been completed. We've gone one full year here on the farm as we plow the field again for the winter, waiting for next summer. So you're going to see these three tractors in tandem here pretty shortly when they take off and go down the field. This saves time and money. So I hope you've enjoyed this video, as we've gone one complete cycle on the farm in the 30s and 40s.